Happy 2019, everybody. Congratulations. We've all made it to 2019, which is awesome. Super excited to talk today. I wanted to, usually on the holidays, I like to not overwhelm you with so much information or saturate you. So I wanted to do a little bit of a shorter stream today. Just give me a thumbs up here, something to make sure you can hear me all right, and we'll get right into it. And what I wanted to talk about today is rather than just to mix things up a little bit, rather than start by analyzing a deal, I want to start by going through a little bit more of a scenario and then teaching you a little bit of a philosophy that if you want to be an investor in real estate, that you really should internalize. And I think when we go through this, you'll see, oh yeah, okay, this makes sense. So let's, perfect. Thank you so much, Fluffy. So let's take a look at this, and we're going to learn something here from actually a comment that I got. Now, if this person is in the course, hopefully we can change their mind. If they're not in the course, well, then sucks for them. But here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about, and then we'll go back to analyzing deals and sort of the regular way of things on Thursday. But this is going to be great in terms of, again, building that philosophy and that understanding with you for real estate investing that I think is so important. So look at this. Somebody commented, for myself, renting out my old home didn't work. That's sort of where they start the comment. And it's I start there because we frequently talk about the idea that we should buy something to live in, and then we should move after a certain amount of time and rent that property out. Now we're taking advantage of cheaper financing. We're getting in under easier terms. And sometimes we can get in with less money down if we so choose. What's great about that is you begin to build wealth from nothing. And that's the point of this course, is when you don't have wealth, how do you build wealth so that in the future, if you want to do joint venture partnerships and you want to invest in college rentals, which we're going to be talking about in this course, if you want to, go to Europe and invest in the 7 to 10 year fixed rate loans they have, and they're variable after that, but you want to take advantage of the low interest rates they have in Europe, and you believe in the EU. Perfect. There are so many different strategies, but to me, it all begins with building that foundation of wealth, so that if you want to put money into a syndicate or a fund in the future, or you want to do something creative, you can. So this person started out sort of echoing our normal belief, which was, for myself, renting out my old home didn't work. And then here we go into some of the numbers. Now, my assumption based on the numbers is that he had a property that was worth probably somewhere around $200,000 to $300,000. They didn't specifically mention that, but I'll show you a little bit how we can sort of back that math. But anyway, let's take a look at this. My house was $918 per month, a 30-year loan at 3.5%. So for somebody to get a 3.5% loan, they probably bought the property sometime in 2013 to 2015. That's when we had those 3.5% rates for homeowner occupants. And my assumption is that his purchase went up in value. So his payment of $918 per month then was probably representative of maybe putting 20% down on, say, a $150,000 or $200,000 property. Let's do it really quick. Let's just mortgage calculator. Let's see if we could do a little bit of a reverse engineering here. So he had a $918 mortgage payment at 3.5. I mean, what an incredible interest rate! Absolutely incredible. If I do a $200,000 loan, I'm right at $900. So we're going to be probably a $203,000 loan that he had. He probably had bought the property for, say, 240, and let's say he bought it for 240, put some money down, and now it's worth $300,000, and then he sold it. But let's analyze a little bit why he sold it, and see if maybe was that the right decision. Let's look at this. So $918 monthly payment. Now, of that $918, probably about $250 of that, maybe to $300 of that, would be going towards principal pay down every month. That's to pay off his loan, which, if you think about it, what is principal pay down? But taking money from, let's say, a drawer and putting it onto a debt, and you're basically just moving your money over. The money's still there. When you make that $300 principal reduction payment, you're just moving it from one asset to another asset. That is from a bank account to less debt. more equity. So it's still the asset value stays the same. Somebody asked me if we were going to be talking about accounting and accounting principles in this course, and we will be, especially once we get into the property management section. We start talking about how to set up your sort of reconciliations, your statements, your journals, and things like that. It'll be really fun. But okay, so what else do we have? So he's renting it. He was thinking that if he were to rent this property out, he could rent it for $1,400 per month. So let's look at this. $1,400 per month rent. And he's got this payment here of $918. Now, okay, so we're going to have property taxes. He might have included property taxes and insurance in this. So whatever. So let's say here in his comment, he says, after the property management company takes the 10%, he would be left with a cash flow of about $325 per month as long as it remained occupied. Let's analyze a couple things here because this is very, very important. First things first, this is somebody that's forgotten that they're paying down the loan. So in addition to paying down the loan in the amount of probably $250 to $300 per month, they're also getting cash flow of $350 a month. So now we're closer to about $650 a month. This money is probably tax-free money because they have a loan. They're able to write off. You should know this. They're able to write off TIMR D, taxes, insurance, maintenance, management, utilities, and reserves, plus depreciation. Those are your tax write-offs. TIMR, TIMMUR, and then D, sort of like plus D. Those are all of your write-offs, and those basically, in many cases, when you have a loan on the property, make it so that you're really not paying any taxes on the income you're receiving. So now he has a tenant that's paying the loan for him, and always check with the CPA. There's a tenant that's paying the loan for him. He's paying off $250 to $350 a month in principal reduction. He's got cash flow of about $325 per month after paying the manager and all of his fees. That's great. So now we're thinking, okay, his net worth every single month is going up by $625 per month, which is over $7,200 per year. And so now we ask ourselves, well, what about repairs? Well, let's say $200,000 to $300,000 house. Let's say he had to replace one furnace every single year. His net worth, not even considering what the market is doing, his net worth is going up $7,200 per year. And worst case, he had to replace one roof every year, or I'm sorry, one furnace every year, or maybe not a furnace every year, but a roof, in 10 years, whatever, right? It all sort of balances out. So he has to spend $2,400 on a new furnace. So now all of a sudden it's like, wait, your net worth is going up by $7,200 per year because of principal pay down on your cash flow. And so what, even worst case, you had to replace an expensive appliance every single year, which that's how I do my math anyways. I always figure every door that you have, set aside $150 to $200 per month for vacancy and repairs and reserves. And he's thinking, you know what, that's $7,200 sort of net worth increase every year. I'd rather take my money off the table, so to speak, and do something else. And we'll talk about what he did and what he said he was going to do in his comment here. But very interesting. You've got this perspective, as he mentioned, as long as it remained occupied, that people think vacancy expenses are going to be very high. Let me give you a quick little preview as to why I think in residential real estate, sort of under 4 units, residential vacancies aren't really that much of an issue. Here's exactly what we do. When we have a house that comes up for rent, let's say this house comes up for rent. This is a much nicer house than I would recommend ever renting out, but let's say it comes up for rent. The tenant says, hey, you know what? My lease is up March 1st. I'm not going to be renewing this year. Fine, no problem. So what do? Feb comes around. Beginning of Feb, you do your pre-move out inspection, probably sometime 2 weeks prior to their move out. But at the same time, you start working with the tenant to say, hey, you know what? Maybe we can help you out and give you an extra day, or if you need to leave early, we can refund you if you need to leave early a couple days. Like say they wanted to move out on Feb 26th, and they really didn't want to pay rent for the 27th and 28th. Sometimes you can work with them on that. But in return, would you mind helping me by letting me take some pictures and keeping the house a little tidy? Let me maybe do a 3D scan of the property so that I can advertise this property for rent again. And then as soon as another prospective tenant comes around that I find is qualified. I'm not just going to do an open house while you're there. I'm going to really pre-screen people, make sure somebody's qualified. They've seen the pictures. They've seen the 3D tour. They've seen the floor plan. Their income's qualified. Based on what they're telling me, they should qualify credit-wise. And would you mind then if I showed the tenant the property that you're living in, during the few weeks leading up to your re-rental. And again, maybe we can exchange for some like flexibility at the end. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, wait a minute, Kevin, you could just post the notice on the door that says 24-hour notice, I'm coming in. Two trains of thought here. You attract more flies with honey than vinegar. You post the notice on somebody's door going, I'm coming in, showing the property, 24-hour notice, bitch. People don't like that. And they get very bitter. They leave dirty underwear out. They leave the dirty dishes out. They pretty much try to do whatever they can in subtle ways to make your life miserable. So if you take this approach of, hey, I'm going to make this really easy for you, and then we can work together at the end or whatever, because they're moving anyway, they're gone, whatever. Your goal becomes having a cooperative tenant there so that you can re-rent the property before your existing tenant ever leaves. We do this all the time. So usually what ends up happening, let's just make an example here, is the existing tenants might leave, say, on the 26th. Then I would have already had scheduled on the 26th or the 27th that I would have a professional cleaning service come in, a touch-up painter, because there's always cleaning, always touch-up paint, window cleaning if I need to do these things. Obviously, certain things would be tenant deductions from their security deposit if they didn't do them. Every property I rent it professionally cleaned, carpets professionally cleaned, windows professionally cleaned. So if the tenants don't do it, I do it. But I still have to schedule touch-up paint, especially in California. We can't deduct for wear and tear on paint. So we'll do touch-up paint, little minor repairs. We'll schedule those things for the 27th and the 28th, and we try to place that tenant on the 1st. So all of a sudden, it's like, wait a minute. How many days of rent did I lose? 2 days? Come on, big deal. And then when you have these units, your goal is not to have turnover, but maybe once every 3 to 5 years. That's your goal. You want a tenant. You don't want this constant every single year you've got a lease renewal happening. Now, there are some cases where that is what it is. For example, if you're in college rentals, the college rental business, you might be having vacancies every 6 months, but you're renting bedrooms. It's a little bit of a different sort of avenue. And there's no right or wrong strategy. We're going to be talking about student rentals in this course, but very interesting to know that you can sort of minimize your vacancy expense if you're active, if you appropriately work with your properties. So let's see what else. Dirty undies, yes. I've seen it all. I'll tell you, people leave out the funniest things. I mean, funny, but also damaging, just to mess with people's impression of a neighborhood. They'll leave out, oh, guess I forgot to put the shotgun away. Yeah, sorry. I wanted to feel a little safer. Great signal to send to prospective tenants, right? But people will do that stuff if you're mean to them. So you got to be careful. Okay, so what else we got? And that's why I started this whole the course out with communication basics. How to be nice to people. And we're going to be talking more about that. But some of those things, they get you so much further in life. All right, what else did they say in the comment? So, all right, then we've got, so we talked about the cash flow. We talked about the principal pay down. Oh, he'll likely break even. Okay, so he's got 25 years left on his loan. So that makes sense. He probably bought the place in 2013. He sold it in 2018. He had a 30-year loan. Perfect. Great. So it's 2013, just like what I thought with when rates were super low. That was a great time. Okay. So then he mentioned, here's an example of just being inexperienced. He said, in order to use that qualified income, lenders wanted to see a steady year of payments. So let's analyze that for a second. What he's saying is, if I go to rent out my house, lenders are telling me the only way I can rent out my house and use that income is they want to see a year of payments. Two things wrong here. One, the way whoever's phrasing the question is probably phrasing the question wrong. The way the question should be phrased to a lender is, I'm going to be vacating my house and buying another property. What are the requirements to use the projected rental income on the property that I am vacating? Now, all of a sudden, you've boxed the lender into telling you exactly, yes, okay, we're going to need a signed lease that's going to start within 60 days of you closing escrow on the new place that you're buying. So we need that lease, again, dated for within 60 days, the start date dated within 60 days of when your new place closes and a tenant is going to occupy the old place. And we will let you use up to 75%, sometimes 80% of that projected rent towards your qualifying abilities. That's great. So all of a sudden you say, okay, well, my rent is going to be $1,400. I'm going to get a lease signed with a property manager for 2 weeks from now, a month from now, usually somewhere between 10 days to 2 weeks from now. And the rent is $1,400. I'm going to get projected rental income of $1,050. So there's an extra $12,000 of annual qualifying power just by using the place that they're vacating. So clearly they got discouraged when they heard that, oh, well, we need to have a steady stream of 1 year of rental income. The reason that misconception came up is because if you want to use your actual rent and your actual expenses, this is true, you need to have rented the property for at least 1 tax year, and you need to be able to show what your expenses were for that time frame. So for example, if you bought a place in March, that's 9 months that you would have a history of rental income and expenses for. And then the lender can extrapolate that over a 12-month period and show, okay, yeah, now we can actually use your actual rent and your actual expenses. But if you don't have it on your taxes yet, they will use projected. So here's another case where this person who left this comment sort of misunderstood the process of buying a property. So we know their net worth is going up. They misunderstood what it takes in terms of vacancy. They misunderstood what it takes in terms of being able to qualify rental income. And then here's the kicker. Okay, this is the fun part for me. They say, instead of breaking even on my house for the next 25 years, which remember, $325 cash flow plus the principal pay down, which is going up every month. Oh, not to mention, every time the property goes up in value 1%, he would have his net worth increase by another $3,000. Property goes up in value 3% a year or 4% or 5%, which tends to be a long run average. But think about that. If we had a long run average of 4% and he had a $300,000 property that he sold, 4% times $300,000, we've got $12,000 plus his principal pay down, plus his cash flow. His net worth is going up by almost $20,000 per year, which if he put 20% down on the place, he put down $20,000 to buy the place. Let's say 20% down would be 40%, $40,000, excuse me. I'm all over the place right now. Say he put down $40,000 to buy the place, and now his net worth is going up with appreciation at 4% a year, principal pay down, and the cash flow that he's getting of roughly $20,000 per year. And he's worried about the potential of a few days of vacancy anytime there's turnover, or maybe I have to replace the furnace for $2,400. And yet he's getting a 50% return on his initial money, possibly every single year. Anyway, okay, now here's the killer, okay? This is the kicker. Instead, what I did is take the equity I made selling it, the $90,000 he was able to clear selling it, which, keep in mind, his equity position, just like that, lost 6% of its value. So if he sold a place for $300,000 times 6%, he'd lost at least $18,000, assuming he didn't have to pay for termite, repairs, or other things. He probably lost $20,000, boom, like that, selling it. Okay, so anyway, he took the $90,000. I should put this picture in our general chat. You know what? I'll put this comment in our general chat so you guys can see it later in the Discord. Instead, what I did is I took the equity of $90,000 I made selling it, knowing $90,000 today is worth more than $90,000 in 25 years. Complete misconception in terms of the time value of money, because he's looking at, oh, I have $90,000 of equity in that house. I may as well just take that now and spend it on something else, but is missing the point that, well, wait a minute. Fine, let's say you have $90,000 sitting in there in equity that you could use for something else after your selling costs. But wait a minute, if you're doing your principal pay down, your cash flow, and the appreciation with the long run average, where we said you were making 20 grand-ish in net worth per year, that's not a bad return, 20 grand on $90,000. I mean, more than 20%. Right? Anyway, okay. So here we go. Knowing that today $90,000 is worth more than $90,000 in 25 years, so I also think this is a misconception. You can see how I could almost turn an entire live stream dedicated to just this one comment here. From that $90,000, I paid off my car loan of $66,000. He had a car loan of 66 grand. Dude, what did you buy? Did you just like pay off a Porsche or a Tesla? You sold your house that was generating you 20 grand in net worth per year to pay off a car that goes down in value. Unbelievable. It blew me away when I see this. So when I was reading this comment, I'm like, wrong. Oh my God, what are you doing? So anyway, let's see. Okay, from the 90K, paid off my car loan. Then he put $12,500 into a savings account. So at max, he's getting 2% on his $12,500. So, you know, Why can I not do math in my head today? So he's making $250 per year from a savings account. And then he's going to use $5,500 to max my IRA, whatever, fine. So he threw it into a Roth or whatever, that's fine. And oh yeah, this is a good one. Still had a little left over to play with, aka I'm buying a flamethrower, I'm buying Christmas presents, I'm buying all the crap that doesn't matter. So now somebody removed an asset from their life that was generating plus or minus $20,000 in net worth for this person. And I purposely say in net worth because equity buildup is net worth, right? Generating $20,000 in net worth every single year based on $90,000 in equity he had on the property to pay off a $66,000 car loan, to save some money, to put some money into an IRA, and then have money left over to play with. I don't know. Sorry. Okay. Just if this person is in our course, I'm really sorry. I felt really inspired to do this as sort of a philosophy of real estate investing for January 1st here. I'm going to look at your comments here in a second. But if you understand what I just went through in this live stream, you will understand, at least initially, and we're going to sort of reiterate this, of course, in the course in high detail, but you begin to understand the psychology of being an investor. An investor looks at not necessarily what is my $300, $325 per month cash flow. They look at how is my net worth going up in time? What can I do to control more assets so that my net worth goes up in multiple different areas at the same time? This is why control is so powerful. But hey, he's got a paid off Porsche. All right, let's see what else we got here. So dirty unders. I love the money clip. Yeah. Thank you. 66%. Oh, nice. Good for you. Yeah, hey, and then I'm gonna post some more lectures, so you'll be behind again. No, you're doing great. Good for you. And it's actually great. I love it when I see that you folks go through the lectures in order because they're really, I know there's a thought of like, oh, Kevin, come on, crank out the lectures faster. But I'm a really big believer in quality. And there's no like recurring monthly fee for you to be here. So to me, it's like, let me really make sure I give you the highest quality information. And then if you get this information paced out, you can internalize it more. These live streams are more conversational. And then that way, when you go to the lectures and you balance these lives with the lectures, what you want to do is expand your melon. If you get too much information at one time, you get a headache, your mind explodes. Okay, so let's see what else we got. Sounds like you are very organized. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, organization is huge, mostly because I get so frustrated in life if things aren't organized. So beware of dog signs everywhere just to scare away sissies from renting my house. That's sad. Yeah, okay, 3.5% loan. That's like free money. No kidding. That's the other thing. He paid off a loan at 3.5% down. Guess what? Goes to buy a property now. He's at 4.5%. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, okay, 1%. It's not that big of a difference, but that's a great loan. I've got loans at 3.7. This house that I'm in is a 3.75% loan, and I have rental properties at 3.99. The last rental we bought is at 5.25. Anyway, all right. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Paying off the car loan. He could have easily controlled a couple more properties. Yeah. Fully loaded Jeep Grand Cherokee. Nice. This guy lives in. Yeah. Okay. So let's touch on the Dave Ramsey thing because it's so true. Yes, the triggered button was pushed. A lot of the things Dave Ramsey says I'm really in support of, but one of the things that really bothers me is when people call into a show, Dave Ramsey will suggest, much like Grant Cardone, will suggest, oh, sell your house. Dave Ramsey says, pay off your debt. Grant Cardone says, give me the money, right? I think it is such a disservice to say that. I mean, look, in the future, and we're going to talk about this in the course too, I'll have real estate funds. We'll do real estate investment trusts. We'll do all this stuff because I love real estate. I want to invest everywhere, not just locally one area. I want to learn about your Canadian real estate, your Japanese real estate, the German real estate market, Sweden, UK. I don't care. To me, it's all the same. I just want more of it, right? And to say that you should liquidate and minimize your control, I think is one of the biggest disservices that you could do. Talking to people who want to be real estate investors and want to build wealth. All right, what else we got? I think the main problem is not that he paid off the card, but how much he had in debt for the car. Exactly. Yeah, no kidding, right? Jordan, thank you so much. Really appreciate that shout out. Good for you, Frank. Well, welcome. Really appreciate you joining here. Did you lower your rate with points, Kevin, or was that the average rate? Okay, so when I bought for when my rates were 3.75 and 3.99, I actually got a little bit of money back. So I took a little bit of negative points at that time. Looking at it now, obviously hindsight 2020, right? I should have paid points and gotten like a 3.25 on a 30-year fix. That would have been insane. But I didn't do that. So anyway, that's just the nature of it. So yeah, I mean, now some folks ask me, they're like, well, Kevin, you have so much equity in these other properties. Why don't you refinance them so you can go buy more properties? I don't like refinancing 3.99% rates. What I do like doing is either getting private money loans against those properties or home equity lines of credit, which you have to sort of establish as you move around. Sometimes you can get rental property lines of credit, but private money is a great source to sort of tap into that equity. And my thing for real estate investing is always the pivot. So you put in, you got, let's say you own a property. Here's just a real example. I just looked at this mortgage statement, $350,000 in debt, $700,000 value. I look at that and I don't think of that as, oh, let me refinance. I think of that as, hey, Bob, can I borrow 200 grand? I got a $700,000 property. I got a $350,000 note on it. If I borrow 200 from you, we're going to be encumbered up to 550. Are you cool lending me 200 grand at 7.5% interest only for 3 years? And you know what? I'll pay you a point as well. And usually I get an answer like, yeah, that sounds good to me. Or they don't have any money because they've already lent it to somebody else. And now all of a sudden I could take this 200 grand, making these interest only payments, and I could go buy another rental property. And then here's the mission I make: buy the other rental property for, 100 grand down or whatever, plus fix up money, whatever. Fix it up, get a tenant in, get it all ready. And then my mission becomes take the cash flow and pay off that private party loan, because the tenant is paying off the main loan on that house, but I want to pay off that private party loan. So as soon as possible, I'm going to be paying off that home equity line of credit, the private party loan. And as soon as it's paid off again, or I find another deal and I use a different property to do it, I go do it again. So my way to sort of play around. Grant actually does not rent the place he lives in. Grant says that he rents the place he lives in because, let me blow your mind here, and then I'm going to take off. Oh, I love this stuff. Okay, hold on. This is great. Some of you folks may already know this. It's a little bright, but anyway, okay. So here is the house or condo that Grant owns, and here's Grant, and Grant is going to pay rent to this house that he lives in. So in his live streams, he can say, "Oh yeah, I rent where I live." And I own what I can rent, right? Well, what he doesn't tell you is that this is owned by a corporation that Grant owns. So Grant is paying rent to himself, to his corporation, for a property that he owns because he believes in Miami real estate. So of course he's going to own the property that he lives in. Even though he always talks about these high-end luxury condos getting spanked in a recession, he owns it. It's public record. The corporation, he pays rent to himself. Beautiful little trick he gets to do now, though. Any kind of renovations, like automated blinds or whatever, which we got the automated shades right here, or whatever, same thing, could write off as a business expense of the corporation. Funny little tricks, right? So it's fun when you start kind of peeling back the layer and you kind of see what and it is, and not to jab at them at all. I mean, it's true. This is what wealthy people do: is they understand the game of real estate. They understand how to, make more money with their money. And one of the big ways Grant makes money is, and it's fine. His fund is a brilliant model for him. I mean, to take 35% of the gains on sales. Well, I mean, that's a lot of money. That's great. Good for him. If anything, I admire how he makes all that money. But yeah, I mean, to say that people should sell their house and give him the money is a sales pitch. Is not, in my opinion, sound real estate advice or investing advice. Anyway, Gene, you will get there. Fluffy, folks, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to take off. I said this would be a shorter live stream, and then here it is, 30 minutes anyway. But I purposely titled this one, whatever I titled it here, the psychology or philosophy or real estate investing, because this is going to be a great way to start 2019. So if you watch this video, I hope you learned a lot. Folks, thank you so much. I'll be active in Discord later today, and can't wait to start the year with all of you and get some new lectures rolling. Thanks for joining a little later than usual. I figured for New Year's Day, nobody really wanted in California to be awake at 9 a.m. All right. See y'all later. Thank you so much.